Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday night, February 3rd, Council Workshop meeting. Would you please read the opening statement, Ms. Woolman?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this workshop meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 2, 2009. By the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger for publication on January 2, 2009. By the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 2, 2009. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127, in accordance with the Fire Prevention Code. Be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows: upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, there to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room at the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Ms. Schlegel, I believe we have reason to go into executive session.
I'm going to just take a roll call, Mayor. Roll call, Mrs. Clark.
Present.
Mrs. Dawson.
She's not in the chambers at the moment.
Mr. Howell.
Here.
Mr. Memelo.
Present.
Mayor Walsh.
Here. Ms. Schlegel, I believe we have reason to go into executive session.
Yes, Mayor. Contract negotiations, TWU, and personnel, CFO.
Okay, Ms. Woolman, will you please read the executive session resolution?
Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of this meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12, whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 in executive session, whereas at this time the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of the executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session, and the public will be excluded in order that the governing body of the Township of Howell may discuss the items listed below. And upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstances under which a discussion conducted in an executive session will be disclosed to the public.
Need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Memelo. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memelo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. For the public, we'll be back out by 7:30. Okay.
I think I did.
I'd like to reopen the council's workshop meeting of February 3rd. Would you all please stand for a pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you all please remain standing for a moment? Silent observation of our troops all over the world fighting for the freedom that we enjoy. Okay. Reports of township officials. Councilman Howell.
Nothing for me, man.
Councilwoman Clark, anything?
Nothing to report today.
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Gonna be a nice, easy meeting. Can I close the meeting now? I have a couple things. One, I would like to congratulate Lou Plaza for passing his CFO's test. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Bless. Good job. I would also like to bring something up that's been brought to my attention about me personally. On Vanderveer Road, for the record, some people have said that I'm buying land on Vanderveer Road as there was just planning board approval of a project over on Fairfield Road where the sewers are running on Vanderveer. And I have never owned land on Vanderveer Road, either myself in a corporation with friends, never intended to buy land, never will own land, as far as I know. I do have a childhood friend that's been there for like 25 years. So for the record, no, I am not interested in buying land on Vanderveer Road because sewers are being run down there. I wanted to make a public comment about that. Who's ever spreading the rumors, they're not rumors, they're blatant lies. So, I just wanted to put that on the record. Ms. Schlegel, anything?
No, Mayor, nothing for me.
Or Barrister?
No, Mayor, nothing from me.
Lou, you're on the job, boss. Anything from you?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Nunziata?
No, Mr. Mayor.
This is like sweet.
Mayor, there is one thing. I believe we also received a letter in our packet about Judge Kaplan being named the head of the Judges Association for Monmouth County.
see that, yeah.
Congratulations. He was named the president, correct?
I believe so.
He's an honorable judge down there. Does a fine job working with our PD.
Absolutely.
I have a couple proclamations. One is declaring March as Women's History Month that I must read. Whereas New Jersey women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our state in countless recorded and recorded ways. And whereas New Jersey women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the state by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas New Jersey women have played a unique role throughout the history of the state by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the state. And whereas New Jersey women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our state. And whereas New Jersey women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And whereas New Jersey women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now therefore be resolved that I, Robert F. Walsh, Mayor of the Township, do hereby proclaim March of 2009 as Women's History Month in the Township of Howell, New Jersey, and urge the citizens of Howell to remember and celebrate New Jersey women and to ensure that New Jersey women are offered equal opportunities in education, the workforce, and health care. Identify, implement, coordinate programs that address the needs of New Jersey women, and engage in continuous study and research on issues affecting New Jersey women and their families. As you can tell up here on the dais, this is an equal opportunity dais. As I look to my left and I look to my right are two highly capable women. And when I look over there, I take my orders from a couple other highly capable women. And also declaring March as Arc of Monmouth Awareness Month, whereas intellectual and development disabilities are conditions which affect more than 7 million Americans and their families. And whereas public awareness and education enhance the community's understanding of these issues affecting people with intellectual and development disabilities. And whereas people with intellectual and development disabilities can be vital and vibrant members of our communities, improving quality of life for us all. And whereas the month of March is designated ARC Awareness Month by the state of New Jersey, with 20 chapters of the ARC undertaking public awareness, educational, and fundraising initiatives. And whereas the ARC of Monmouth serves over 1,200 individuals with intellectual disabilities throughout Monmouth County and advocates for and with people with intellectual and development disabilities and their families. And whereas the ARC of Monmouth is celebrating 60 years of service to families and individuals throughout Monmouth County. Now therefore be resolved that I, Robert F. Walsh, Mayor of Howell Township, do hereby proclaim March 2009 as ARC Awareness Month in the Township of Howell, New Jersey, and urge the citizens of Howell to give full support to efforts towards enabling people with intellectual and development disabilities to live full and productive lives of inclusion in our communities. As many of you know, that one touches me personally. ARC is a tremendous organization, having an autistic child. Knowing a lot of families that have special needs children and special needs adults. ARC does a tremendous job trying to help all the families through their difficult times. And the people of Howell are just wonderful. One of the major reasons I'm here in this township is how they've been to my family, especially to my son. So, God bless all those that spend their time helping ARC and the wonderful women all over. So, do we have a list? Public comments on consent agenda items? Need to go into regular session?
We will need to go into regular session when we take action, so we can go into regular session. Therefore, we'll be ready to roll.
Let's go. Need a motion to go into regular session.
moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Okay, can we,
And there's a list of action items in front of you, Mayor, in front of the council, items that need action this evening, so the public can speak on those first.
where would the list be? Is there a list? Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on consent agenda items?
Close it.
No? No list?
No, if anybody wants to come up for the consent agenda, they can come up now. The hearing of public citizens is at the end of this meeting.
Well, I want to give them the opportunity to speak, but I need the consent agenda items.
Absolutely.
I know.
Right.
So where should we start, Ms. Wellman, on 7A1?
Do you want to take action on the action items? We can do the public hearing.
We can go to 8A4 and do the public hearing on the ordinance.
Okay. .884 is about Howell Township sewer utility rates. Ordinance number 0-09-4, introduced and passed on first reading on 1/2009, and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 1/2309, submitted as noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board, the municipal building, and copies are available to the general public.
Mayor, I'll read the title of the ordinance. An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 252-22 Sewer and Water, Article 2, entitled Sewer Utility, as it applies to sewer user charges.
Now I'd like to open the meeting to the public. For anybody that would like to speak about this ordinance. No takers? I'd like to close the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the council?
May I make a motion that ordinance number 0-09-4 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the February 609 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion before we have a roll call on this? Deputy Mayor Dalton?
Mr. Schlegel, I know our CFO isn't here tonight, so can you tell me, I'm not quite familiar with, because I wasn't here when the bonding was done for ours, how much debt service do we have that's being paid for the sewers?
I don't know exactly what you're asking.
Are there bonds out there, are there municipal bonds that are related to our sewer utility?
Yes.
And when are they coming due? Do we know? I'm trying to get a handle on, I had a conversation today with someone who was suggesting that at some point our rates may actually be able to go down if we have debt that's going to be canceled or redeemed or paid off.
As far as I know, based on my conversation with our bond counsel, we're going to amend our bond ordinance to reflect the 20-year maturity date. Right now, our bands are out, so we have to coincide the two maturity dates.
Oh, so that's for the new sewer, the new sewers, the new sewer lines that are being so we have bands. I'm talking about existing debt. So you're saying we're going to take on more debt for the sewer? No.
Lou, Mr. Palazzo?
Yeah.
Currently, there is a sewer note, a sewer bond that was taken out in November of 2001 and is going to become due in 2014. We make semi-annual principal and interest payments, and we'll make that as a result of until 2014. Currently, we have a sewer bond anticipation note that is out there in anticipation that we will be bonding for the sewer assessment along Route 9.
And that assessment's going to be paid by everyone or just by those who utilize the sewer?
That would only be paid by the users of the sewer.
Those who tap in, or everyone?
Only those who tap in.
Everyone has to connect.
But I'm saying the existing users or just the new users are paying for that one?
Just the new users.
Okay. All right. So we're not, in the next several years, we're not going to see these rates go down at all?
I mean, the way that the payment is structured, the payment decreases as you're paying down your bond. So the amount that you're paying per year for the principal and the interest, that slowly decreases.
There's some other things that come into play right now also. With construction being where it is, I spoke to Mr. Filiato a couple weeks ago, and he's anticipating $360,000 less in connection fees this year with construction being stopped. Pretty much on hold all over the state, many parts of the country. We also have less interest in our sewer utility because of where interest rates are now. We only allowed to put money in certain instruments, and right now they're yielding 1.5%, 2% tops.
About 3%, Mayor.
3%. I mean, you're doing pretty good at 3%. So, but I saw a few different things. It basically came down to about $360,000 less in hookup fees, about $160,000 less in interest fees this year, and another $220,000 in surplus that we need to replace. So, the sewer utility, they weren't raised since like 1992, and they were lowered in 2004. And at the time, there were many discussions back then about it being lowered too much, and that would eventually eat up all the surplus. And eventually, that's exactly what it did. So,
Mayor, am I also correct in Mercer this year, for the first time in more than a decade, also gave us a 4% increase?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
yeah, they've been absorbing most of the costs. The sewer authority had been for a number of years for the treatment of the water, and they've been very fair, but this year they did pass it on to us. And we were alerted to it probably the second quarter of last year, but we didn't know exactly what the charge would be and what it would be being applied. So, what's the rate going up to? Is it 172 a quarter?
That's correct, Mayor.
And it was, what, 152 or 151?
It was 152 for the residential rates.
Okay, and that's a quarter. And in, I believe in 2004, it was $161.
That is correct.
So, it has to go up. The sewer utility has to be self-funded. So there is no not charging enough to pay the bills. So this has to be done. It's really non-negotiable. This should make our sewer utility whole. If we are able to in the future decrease it because of bonds being paid off or maybe other fees not coming in or more users as more people connect, we'll be glad to try to lower it, but at this time, it's a necessity. So, anything from anybody else? We're good? Have a roll call, please, Ms. Wallman.
Mrs. Clark? Yes. Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor, perhaps we should continue with the action items, the next being the ordinance introductions, the 9 As.
Okay, one moment, please. There'll be no action taken tonight on these ordinances. Correct, Mrs. Wallman?
8A1 through 8A3 are scheduled for public hearing and adoption on February 17. The introduction of ordinances, we have 3 of them, and they are scheduled for introduction this evening.
8A1, 8A2, and 8A3. Okay, how about, and we also have 9A1 being introduced tonight,
That is correct.
and 9A2, and 3.
The 8As are public hearing on February 17th. They've already been introduced, so we're going to just introduce the 9As right now.
Okay. Member of the council.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-09-5 on first reading by title and to order that same be published in full in the February 6, 2009 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will further be considered for final passage after a public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on February 17, 2009 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Wallman, please read the title.
Ordinance amending Section 188 of the Code of the Township of Howell, reestablishing residential and non-residential development fees in conformance with the statewide Non-Residential Fee Act and COA's third round regulations. Roll call, Mayor.
Yes?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Mayor, I just have a couple of questions before I vote. In the packet, in the backup packet, under 188-181, Section B, subsection 2, where it says eligible exactions, ineligible exactions, and exemptions for residential development. There's a sentence in there that says, unless the developer seeks a substantial change in the approval. Who determines what's substantial? I mean, that's kind of open-ended, and, you know, one attorney may, and I've seen attorneys come to the planning board and zoning board that have a way different perspective of what's substantial than what the professionals that we hire feel substantial is.
Whoever's hearing the application is going to decide whether or not that's a substantial change or not. It's similar to the adoption of an ordinance. If you make it, or if you talk
Into the
about,
mic.
if you adopt an ordinance at first reading and then you change it, whether or not it's a substantial change,
Right.
similar to that.
Who's the determining authority of what's substantial?
It's the planning board's going to make that decision.
Okay. And then down in section 5 of that same area, it's, nonprofit organizations have received tax-exempt status for permits and fees. Do we have any kind of regulation that, you know, if you come and get your fees and your permits waived as a not-for-profit, and then you give up your not-for-profit next year, can we recoup those fees?
We don't have anything like that on the books, and I've actually posed that question to Andy with respect to this particular ordinance.
All right, is that something that we could look at?
Certainly, if you'd want to, if that would be the pleasure of the governing body.
And then I just have one more question in 188-185, where it says what the funds can be used for. And I just have a question. The master plan subcommittee meetings, when they were doing all their COA work, could the funds for that, instead of coming out of the general fund, could they be taken out of the COA trust fund to pay for the professionals at those meetings? It's not listed in here that they can.
Based on my understanding, I actually, again, asked our co-counsel whether or not that can be done. I haven't heard back from him, but I don't think that can be used for that.
If we, you know, because that whole section, expenditure of all funds shall conform to a spending plan approved by COA. I mean, if COA wants to have us, you know, spending 30 or 40 grand a year on attorneys and planners, COA planners, COA attorneys, why can't we take it out of the COA trust fund before Trenton comes back and takes all the COA trust fund money from us
Right,
anyway?
we did establish a couple meetings ago, I don't know if it was the last meeting or not, we did establish that COA escrow agreement, do you remember?
Right.
And that's where some of those things would come out of.
Okay. I'm fine, I'll vote yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 982 is permit process for clothing bins. It's in order to establish a regulation and permit requirement for the placement and use of charitable clothing bins throughout the township. A member of the council, please read the ordinance.
May I make a motion to introduce ordinance number 0-09-6 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 2609 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 2/17/09 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Woman?
I'll read the title of the ordinance first.
I read the ordinance first.
An ordinance of the Township of Howell establishing regulations and permit requirements for the placement and use of charitable clothing bins throughout the township. Roll call, Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 983.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-09-7 on first reading by title and to order the same be published in full in the 2609 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will further be considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 2/17/09 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Woman, please read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Article 2, Chapter 57-4, entitled License and Registration Tag of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor, do you want to continue with the action items, the resolutions listed?
I'm fine with that, Mrs. Woman, if that's what you would like, ma'am.
Excellent. The resolutions are 9B 10, 11, 12, 13, 19, 20, 21.
9B 10. All right, let's go to page 7. 9B 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, correct? On page 7.
Mayor, don't refer to page numbers.
Just for me.
They moved.
Oh, they moved. Okay.
Mayor, do we want to include the 9 Cs with the 9 Bs?
Okay, is that where we were, just 9, 10 through 14?
10, 11, 12, 13, 9B 19, 20, 21, Should you include motions 9C1, 2, 3, and 4? That 9C1 is appoint mobile home rent control board chair. You just need to include that in your motion, who the individual would be.
All right. So we'll include 9C1, 9C2, 9C3, and 9C4. Should we vote on 9C1 separate? Anybody? Do we know we're going to appoint to the rent control board chair?
Why don't you do that as a separate?
Let's do it as a separate. Anybody have any comments? Anybody from the governing body?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move those resolutions and motions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Would you like me to go next, Mrs. Wallman?
9C1,
9C1.
the appointment mobile home rent control board chair.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Mrs. Karen Morlino as the chair.
I'll second that.
Any comments? Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Memolo?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, that takes care of the action items for this evening. Should you want to go back to the discussion item?
On
Which is-
discussion tonight, 7A1.
Correct.
Yes, Mayor, this was requested to be put on the agenda because there is a conflict with the duration periods of occupancy in the hotels. Councilman Howell had asked that this be put on for discussion tonight.
Okay, Mr. Slagle, why don't we discuss it then? Okay, anything that you would like to say?
No, but I think Councilman Howell would probably like to start the discussion.
Someone told me that, that's why I asked you if you wanted to speak first, okay? Councilman Howell, what would you like to discuss, sir?
Mayor, last year we came across an inconsistency in the ordinance for the hotel, the new hotel ordinance that regulated the length of stay in the hotel to 14 days. And we found that we had an inconsistency in an old ordinance that actually allowed 90-day stays within the hotel. So we needed to rescind the old ordinance to leave the most recent one in place.
Anybody else?
Where in the materials that we received does it even talk about, I'm missing it.
Me too.
Where does it talk about the length of stay?
Why don't we ask our barrister?
You have the proposed change in the ordinance, which addresses the length of stay, and it was introduced with respect to the hotel motel tax. So when the ordinance that was already on the books, that was for 90 days, I guess, that was on there.
Right here, it's 170. Mrs. Dalton, it's on the second page of the backup, it's 175-2. Section B, it said, "No owner or employee shall rent a room or unit in any hotel or motel to any person, nor permit, suffer, or allow the renting of any room or unit to any one person for a period of time which exceeds 90 days. Also, Section A of that ordinance allowed for the room to be rented every 12 hours. The new ordinance only allows for the room to be rented once every 24 hours.
Okay, so the old ordinance was 175, Section 2 was repealed, and that should have been kept in? I'm still missing.
No, it was never repealed when the new ordinance was put in. There was no language in there that says the new ordinance, voids any previous existing ordinance.
So where's the new language?
It's in 188, which has been on the books for 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Some guidance here.
We're essentially repealing an inconsistent ordinance.
Okay, should we
If
have...
that's the direction that you want.
Okay, this is just a question. Should we have repealed it when we first put the other ordinance in place?
The ordinance that was in place, I think, was 188. I don't know that off the top of my head what section that is. Should have contained the repealer language. It did not.
Okay, so the one that we just passed recently did not have the repealing language in it, and then it should have. Is that what you just said to me?
The most recent one did not have the repealer language in it.
Okay, that's what you just said to me. Okay,
But-
just so...
Can I ask a question? The intent, at least, of the ordinance that was passed, and I was not present, was with regard to the fee. It was not with regard to this time, correct?
The one provision of that section dealt with the fee. That's the only thing that was changed.
Okay.
So the ordinance that was on the book, I believe it was 175-3, dealt with the tax.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was, and I actually drafted that ordinance, it only dealt with the tax issue. At that time, there would be no reason for me to, or there would, at that time, there wouldn't be any reason to repeal that length of stay duration, because we didn't know that there was another ordinance on the books that had inconsistent language. So 175-1 through 175-2 is being repealed.
I understand that. I just was curious if that was the intent, and I guess I'm looking to my colleagues of the governing body at the time when they discussed this. Was it seemed to me, I think I was present, it was more of a tax issue, and the length of stay was not discussed. And now am I wrong about that?
I agree, that's why I'm...
And that's
Okay,
why
we're just, right, okay.
And now what? Now
You're correct.
Now we're looking at this and having to make a decision on whether or not this is appropriate,
Right.
or
We're discussing this, you're absolutely correct in what you're saying. But the reason that we're discussing it is because it was discovered that there is inconsistencies between that and an older ordinance. So it's just a matter of straightening out, what you want the length of stay to be.
When we introduced the tax ordinance, it was for that one purpose. It was not relative to the duration of
Yeah.
stay. It was strictly relative to the tax that the municipality can collect from the hotels and motels. It had nothing to do with duration.
exactly.
There was some discussion at the time about the duration, and maybe there was an inconsistent ordinance on the books, but nothing came of that. Mr. Howell came to me and said that there's an inconsistency within our ordinances, which was 175-1 and 175-2, and the tax ordinance provision, which is 175-3, had nothing to do with that. That will remain in effect.
Okay.
Okay, but
What is the pleasure of the council here? What would we like to see done?
Well, I think we need to repeal the inconsistent ordinance, which allows for 90-day stays in the hotel, because one of the big concerns I think that people had when the hotel ordinance was drafted was that it was going to become a welfare hotel or something else, and the new ordinance that was written, I believe it was about 3 years ago, specified that rooms could only be rented for 14 days at a maximum. They could only be rented once every 24 hours. Whoever drafted that ordinance never repealed the one that said you could stay there for 90 days and they could rent a room quicker than the sheets could dry.
Nice analogy, okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, it definitely has to be changed there, Mr. Mayor, because you wind up with long-stay individuals there. We could wind up with some definite issues, people staying there, bringing heating elements in there, cooking utensils and stuff, and it could become a public safety hazard at one time.
Mayor Dalton, anything?
No, I agree. I thought that the length of stay in the hotel conference center ordinance was what the governing body at that time made the policy decision that it was to be 14 days. And if we have another ordinance that is contradictory to that, then what we're really doing is just cleaning up something that was an oversight 3 years ago.
That's absolutely correct.
Councilwoman Clark, anything else?
I understand the concern of the governing body. I'm just trying to understand if there is at this point, are hotels actually renting for 90 days? Is this an issue that's confronting the town? And, you know, I would suspect certain hotel owners or motel owners may feel differently, certainly, about this and whether or not they should be.
It was a very long, difficult debate, okay? A few years ago, and even on top of that, twice it's been brought up to repeal the hotel ordinance and put it back to the zoning board. Not that nobody wants a hotel, but, you know, my personal feelings are it should be in the hands of the zoning board to decide if it's the appropriate place. And I would like to see the governing body put that back up again for us to discuss and decide whether to repeal a hotel being an allowable use. Okay. This I agree with Councilman Howell, absolutely. And this is one of the things I really hope for us having a full-time, competent attorney on staff, okay, here in Howell Township, that a lot of these conflicting ordinances, when things come up, that they all get cleaned up together. That's what I would really like to see done. Too many times I've heard over the last 3-4 years how one ordinance conflicted with another when we found out later on. It's been a major contention from members of the zoning board. It's been brought up by members of the planning board. It's really one of the things that I would truly like to see happen with you being our attorney here in house, okay? That these conflicting ordinances, let's put the ducks in a row. So.
I agree, which is why I'm on your ordinance review committee.
That is why you're on the ordinance review committee. That's very nice of you.
And it's clear she's been doing her job since she's been here bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, no, that's great. This is one of the things I truly wish for in an in-house attorney for the township, that a lot of these things will get corrected, and they all are in sync with each other. Anything else?
Just for Mrs.
I have a
Dalton,
question for you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Member.
What happens if these hotels that are already in existence and they have people staying there, when this ordinance is changed, will they be grandfathered in and be kept out of the ordinance and be allowed because they've had continuous occupancy there?
You want my best guess, or would you like the attorney to answer? My best guess would be no, but I'll punt it over to her.
Thank you.
They're not going to be grandfathered in. There's no grandfather clause in the ordinance.
So when this is changed over, this is it. The maximum stay is going to be X amount of days, and that's it. There will be no 90-day stay or anything, right?
It then obviously becomes an enforcement issue at that point.
And we'll be able to keep track of that with our code enforcement?
We hope so.
Mayor, the new hotel ordinance is 188-87-1, and was added on 8/15/2006. And that's where it has the language that for the purpose of this chapter, overnight shall mean continued occupancy of a room or suite are only available for 24-hour occupancy. Guests of the hotel shall not reside within the hotel for more than 14 consecutive days. And a case in point is, the zoning board just heard a case on Monday where the zoning board heard a case for the Freewood Acres Hotel wanting to put a second-floor addition, and the zoning board told them they could have people in there for 30 days. So the zoning board absolutely superseded the ordinance that the township has of 14 days.
We have the vice chair of the zoning board here. Could I please have him come up? I would like to hear about that. Good evening, Mr. Meyer.
Good evening.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen Meyer, 56 Adelphia Road. I'm Vice Chair of the Board of Adjustment of Howell Township. Yes, we did approve Monday night. We were going on, or our professionals go on what is in the zoning ordinances. They don't refer back to the general ordinances where I believe the length of stay is at.
It's in the zoning ordinance. It's in the land use section
So
of the
Mr.
zoning
Our
ordinance
professionals
where
never picked up-
hotels and conference centers are allowed.
All right, it's Mr. Howell, it's okay.
I just wanted to let Mr.
Yeah,
Meyer know that it was.
because our professionals never picked up on that, and the applicant's attorney never picked up on it either.
Well, I don't think he would.
Okay,
Yeah, he wouldn't, but our professionals never picked up on that. So we just basically pulled what seemed like a fair number at the time.
Okay. But this isn't our ordinance, correct? That the maximum length of stay is 14 days?
That is our ordinance.
That isn't our ordinance.
Yes.
But we also have an ordinance that says the maximum length of stay is 90 days.
Okay. What can we do?
But that's the general ordinance. The 14-day is the land use ordinance.
Okay. What can we do about the approval that was just granted, given more than 14 days? What can we do about that? Being as that does not mean,
We haven't memorialized the resolution yet, if that makes any difference.
You could amend that approval.
we could right now rescind that approval or amend that approval. What could we do right now as a governing body?
The zoning board, I believe, would have to amend that approval.
Can we get a memo to that effect to the board for our next meeting, next
Yeah.
Monday?
Yes, because the zoning board has jurisdiction over the land use ordinances.
Mayor, I would also just ask that the zoning board professionals be referred to the hotel and conference center ordinance, because it also stipulates minimum room sizes. It also stipulates minimum parking that are not, obviously everything's waiverable or
I
variance can
think
be
they made
granted.
it in with the parking.
I think they went, this is the same guy that said a building was not-for-profit and he hasn't been able to produce a tax certificate for 5 years? Same attorney?
That's not
Different
confuse
case,
A with
but,
B. It's not confuse A with B. With this approval right now that was just granted by the zoning board, what can we do about seeing that it adheres to the ordinance we currently have on our books? What can we do about it now? Because it's going to be memorialized on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, I just heard?
There's a chance of it. I don't know if Ron Tropoli has prepared that ordinance yet or not, or a resolution yet or not.
I would suggest that our attorney reach out to the zoning board attorney and work out these details, so that we're sure as to how we can proceed.
I have no problem with reaching out to the
And
attorney.
I think the worst we might have there is we might have to reopen the case just for that one issue, but I don't have a problem with that, and I don't believe the board would.
Well, I would just ask that they look at all of the issues, like I said, the minimum room sizes and everything, which, if they were making adjustments to existing rooms and everything else in that particular case, I don't imagine they would have to conform to the new room requirements, but if they were in another floor,
The new rooms would have to comply with the ordinance.
the new ordinance. So, I mean, I think they need to look at all of it, not just the length of stay and, the 12 hours and all of that. They need to look at.
Well,
We
Mr.
actually
Mr.
went
Meyer,
into
if you
12
don't,
hours.
if you don't have a problem, I think that possibly Mr. Tropoli and Ms. Kingdon should have a discussion on the way to proceed, the best way to proceed to address these issues.
And if we could have Chairman Van Noy contacted on this also. please.
Absolutely. Give him a call.
Okay.
Is that the wishes of the governing body? Everybody?
All right, for Mr.
Yeah, Ms.
Tropoli
Kingdom.
and Ms. Kingdon to get
Ms.
together on
Kingdon,
it?
reach out to Mr. Chopley, the attorney for the zoning board, because that is my fear of ordinances conflicting and things being done that do not meet the ordinance that are on the books.
See, we wouldn't necessarily know that either,
Right.
that happened. So maybe we can, do something to make a better connect between the two.
Yeah, let's work on that disconnect between,
Yeah.
all the boards are autonomous, but, let's work on that disconnect. If there's anything, Mr. Meyer, that you or members of the zoning board could, I know in the past you've given us a list of things you would like to see happen,
Well, in
so
this
that everything
case,
was in
I
sync.
think we have to get all the ordinances that apply here, because we do have the larger hotel or case coming up in another month or so.
I would like that to be put up for discussion again.
Would you like that on for discussion?
I would like that out for discussion,
You mean the repeal of the hotel ordinance?
the hotel. ordinance.
188-87.1? Yeah, I would like that on too.
Okay.
Could you read that number again, Deputy Mayor?
188-87.1.
And as a board member, I'd be a lot happier if we had what the council's wishes are on that hotel as far as the ordinances are concerned, rather than proceeding on an old ordinance. If
Well,
you
we
didn't-
have the new ordinance, and this, to me, the reason that I constantly voted no about repealing that is that this hotel is in front of the zoning board, where you want it to be anyway. So it's going to the zoning board, it's not going to the planning board.
That's this hotel.
Say again?
That's this hotel.
Right.
It's not any hotel. That's this hotel. I respect your opinion about it. I'd just like to see it go up for discussion again.
My only worry, as far as the approval that was granted by the zoning board on Monday, is if the zoning board attorney decides he's going to memorialize it anyway, without the restrictions in place that our ordinance has, and if the room sizes aren't conducive to what the ordinance requires, the applicant comes back and starts screaming at the engineering department, land use department, construction department, saying, I have my approval from the zoning board, damn it, I want to build my addition.
Watch the language.
But I think there's a certain amount of leeway with the board right now if we did not address all the waivers and variances necessary. If there was ordinances that were not addressed, I think this can be reopened.
Okay.
I thank you, Mr. Meyer. And Ms. Coogan, you have your direction there?
Yes, Mayor. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Really appreciate
Mr.
it.
Mayor, can I just, Ms. Kingdon, can I just ask if it's, we have two complete sections that deal with hotels and motels. We have the chapter that was enacted in 2006, and we have Section 175. So I would like you to make sure that there are no other inconsistencies in those chapters, because we have definitions in both. And I haven't looked at them meticulously, but I suspect that there are other language issues which may need to be addressed so that they're consistent.
I agree, and I would for sure look through the entire ordinance.
Sounds fun.
Mrs. Woman, where would you like to go next?
Home.
That sounds good. I guess if there's no questions on the 8A, 1, 2, and 3 as they're scheduled for public hearing and adoption on Feb. 17, I guess we'll start with going over the resolutions to see if there's any questions or comments on those. Those are scheduled as well for Feb. 17 adoption.
All right, let me make sure. Do we have anybody want to discuss anything with 8A1? It's ordinance authorizing township officials to sign a lease to allow Howell Police Athletic League to occupy one office in the meeting room at the Howell Township Youth and Family Service Building on 524. Anybody want to bring up anything about that right now? 8A2, ordinance sets a salary range schedule for certain officers and employees of the township. Anybody want to discuss that now? Deputy Mayor Dalton?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that ordinance doesn't mean that salaries automatically go up or are increased, is that correct?
You're absolutely correct.
It's just a range,
That's correct.
so that basically we're in compliance with what our salaries already
That's
are.
correct.
Okay, and that doesn't mean that we're raising anybody's salaries.
That's correct.
Okay. 8A3, an ordinance per planning board recommend revise ordinance number 0-08-40 to include a language change for definition of township consultants. Would anybody like to discuss that now or wait until the 17th of February? Okay. We'll go on to resolutions. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want a separate vote on any of the resolutions?
Mayor, I would ask that at this time 9B4 be pulled.
9B4. Any opposition to that?
Well, I guess in light of our discussion about the zoning approval, yeah, I would concur with that. And we're not voting on these tonight, right? We're just discussing them.
I got a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr.
This
Moore.
is just for preliminary sewer approval. Why, would that have anything to do with what's going to be going on with the other board?
It's not for me to decide. The attorney's going to get together with the attorney from the zoning board, and it's going to go from there. So I'm not about to make a determination about that.
Okay, it's just a question.
So
Mr. Mayor,
5, 6, 7,
I had a question on 9B3.
9B3.
I think is that the Colts Neck Crossing project that
No.
predates us? No? Which project is that?
Oh, no, that is, I think that's.
Okay.
I think it's the affordables.
Yeah, because of that predates my service up here. Is that an inclusive, it's the inclusive part of their project? Is that an age-restricted inclusive development, or is that?
Yes.
Any age? Oh, that's, okay, I wasn't sure and I wanted to know.
Yeah, when I first came on council, as you know, there's a lot of contentious people back then about that approval. And when it first got approved, I believe there were 492 senior homes approved there on the intersection of Colts Neck Road and Route 33. And through lengthy discussions, we ended up, I believe, getting 72 affordable homes being built. When it was first approved, there were 0 and a commercial component. So I believe that this is what the approvals are for. Is that correct, Ms. Schlegel?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Feliciano? It's the 72 affordable senior units that are there now, that were added to the agreement, and the commercial component. I would like to ask Ms. Naziata something. Have we come to a determination yet with some of the land that needed to be taken in front of a couple of people's houses? I know that we received correspondence from the county saying that we didn't have to take it if we don't want, but I want to hear from you.
It's actually progressed a little further than that. They actually are going to proceed with doing that. We actually had a meeting last week at the county with the county planning board, and we met the 3 residents, and it has been explained to them and the process as it's going to go. The county planning board, it appears, it does want those improvements to be made. The applicant, Centex, I believe, he can only get 88 COs until that improvement has to be done. But they are progressing with it, and the residents do understand the process. So we are, actually, I met with all of them myself and have had discussions with them, but it is actually going to happen.
Are the residents a lot better than they were? I know they came before us a couple times.
Well, they're comfortable with the process because they didn't understand the process and that they actually had a choice. And now that's explained to them, I think they're more comfortable with it, yes.
Okay. Would you please give the names to Ms. Schlegel? Would you look into that and speak to them and make sure they're okay?
Absolutely.
Because they had come before us, and they were very concerned there for a while. And I would just like to know that they're okay.
I'll contact them and then I'll get back to you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Questions on anything, or want a separate vote? We'll go
No,
to
Mayor.
9B9, 9B15 through 18. And 9B20. Oh, we already did 20 and 21, correct?
Yes.
We voting on them twice.
We don't need to vote on them twice. All right, so 9B4 is pulled.
Correct.
We're doing 9B1 through 3, 9B5 through 9, 9B10, and 9B15 through 18.
We already voted on 9B10 there.
We voted on 9B10.
Correct.
I wish they were all in order for me. Yes, we did. Okay. Anybody like to make a motion?
Mayor, we took care of all action items this evening. If there's no other discussion, I guess we'll move on to the hearing of citizens.
Okay. Now, I know more people have come, so why don't we take a 2-minute break? Anybody else that would like to sign in to talk? I'll put the list back out. We'll reopen the hearing in 2 minutes. I'd like to reopen the public portion of the meeting. At the moment, we're going to go to the hearing of the citizens. First citizen, Chris Michelson. Hello, Mr. Michelson. Will you state your name and address for the record, please?
Chris Michelson, President of Local 225 Branch 4 of the Transport Workers Union, representing the blue and white collar employees on the premise, and our offices are located in Brick, New Jersey.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here today, I guess you probably could guess, that we're here to talk about the furlough plan and this what's
No.
going on
No.
there, yeah. I want to, start out by stating for the record that the TWU and its members are very, very upset, angry, dismayed, and opposed to the furloughs. And also, of course, we are opposed to layoffs. And of course, we do not want layoffs, but we don't want the furloughs either, because this is happening to like the lowest paid people in the town, and we're looking at 12 weeks. Our members are looking at 12 weeks of furlough for this year. We feel that it's unfair, and is there any other way to be more equitable? I would ask that, the council dig way down deep, and if there's any cuts that could be done for, on projects, if you cut every expense that could possibly be cut, or cut back on to help stop or reduce the furloughs of our members. I just want to make it on record again that last year we were opposed to the 0% raise on the municipal tax. That went through anyway, and then I feel that went a long way to put the livelihoods of our members and all the employees in the township at risk. But none of the members are more vulnerable than the TWU members. We are the least able to afford this. We all come here and we take these jobs and we give up, the pay for years and years because it's the benefits and a pension and the feeling of security, and we're all professionals, and then we decide to make it a career to work for the public, devote our lives to serve in the public, and then something like this happens. It's a totally freaking mind-blowing to our members. It is so devastating to the morale right now too that I don't know how they're going to. A lot of them are going to be able to come here and function properly in their jobs with this type of burden hanging over their heads. I mean, you're talking about the loss of thousands upon thousands of dollars out of their salary this year. And I understand that, it is better than layoffs. We understand all that, but we still are here to present to you the case that this is, such a huge hardship, and that we would ask you to please, anything that you could do to reduce the effect of this. Please, if you could do it. I know there's a number of trust funds that are existing in the township. Is there any way that the town could dip into trust funds to help pay salaries? Like the Basin Trust or whatever other trust funds that you have. I know there's a trust fund, I think, that has to do with recreation. That you might be able to look in there and find money to help out. Another thing is, does the town have any plans right now to stop this from happening in the future? Is this going to happen next year? Because that's a big concern of the members. Is this going to just happen next year, and maybe the next year, and the next year after that? It's just, you can imagine what it's like to sit there and think that, we'll do 12 weeks this year. Is it going to be 16 weeks next year? Is it going to be 20 weeks the year after?
I think this needs to be addressed a little bit. Would anybody like to say anything? I will. I agree with you, it is very painful. I mean, I'm also in an industry where in the last 3 years, I went from having 65 employees to 19. I've had to lay off single mothers. I've had to give pay cuts to single mothers. I've had to take benefits away from family members. In private business, revenue dictates how much money you can spend. In government, it now has come down to somewhat revenue and how much money you get from the state through taxation, but you're limited on what you can raise in taxation. So I can't promise you what's in the future. I can tell you this much. Last year, from jobs we eliminated, which were very painful, people losing their jobs, and jobs where we didn't replace or we removed from the budget, that saved $929,000. So we would have been in the same exact boat this year, except those people would have been laid off and there would have been extra money. You can only raise 4% from the amount of taxation. And you know, last year, if we had raised the maximum last year, Ms. Plaza, do you know the figure that we could have raised taxation last year? If we didn't want the maximum, that could have been raised. But there's also a very strong need from the people. A lot of the people are maxed out. I own a mortgage company. People cannot afford to live. And it is very difficult. And a lot of your workers are citizens of Howell Township.
Right.
And they're good, hard-working people. They do a great job.
They do.
They really do.
Yep.
I mean,
They love this town. They love working for the town. They dedicate their entire, adult careers to serving the public and the citizens of this township.
well, but also you have to look, and you're an intelligent man. And a lot of your workers are intelligent. I've spoken to numerous workers over the last week and a half that I've run into in different places. This is a very difficult situation. But with the state clamping down on revenue, less money coming to the town, things costing more, insurance, as we all know, going through the roof, less interest income, less revenue from construction and code enforcement, things of that nature. I don't know where it ends. I wish I could tell you. I wish there was a crystal ball to say this would never happen again.
Right.
What are we going to do next year if there's less revenue and interest rates stay down here and there's still no interest income and there's no construction going on? What are we going to do? I believe we're at a crossroad, but I also believe that the models, which we have seen in the United States of America, are broken. Look at GM, look at Ford, look at major corporations. I mean, everyone tries to say that government isn't a business. It is. It's about revenue and expenses when it comes down to it at the end. Yes, it's about people, and it's about services. So are companies. And at the end of the day, if you don't have the revenue to meet the expenses, in business you go bankrupt. You lose your company.
Right.
We can't afford to let that happen to the residents of Howell.
Right.
And the people are pretty tapped. I have some very difficult days where I go home and just take a nap from hearing about people losing their homes, losing their cars, losing their jobs. I will tell you that I talked to the manager about some of the things that were implemented, and I was fully in favor, 100% in favor of doing anything we possibly could so that one person did not lose their job and their benefits. Will it cause hardship this way? Yes, it will. I mean, I believe in the town right next to us, I believe you lost 52 workers. Was that the number, sir?
It came down to actually 45 were laid off.
45 people trying to find a job in this economy is nearly impossible. I mean, I don't want to hear unemployment 7.2%. that doesn't take into consideration the people that aren't on unemployment no
right,
more.
right.
People that have become so-called consultants.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment's in double digits right now in New
Right.
Jersey. Trying to find another job is, I've put some of my people that I have left on 4-day work week.
Hmm.
I feel for you and your workers and the township, but the bottom line at the end of the day is business decisions have to be made. And they're not easy. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm happy with them. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I am 100% in support of the manager on what has been done here, and that everybody is gainfully employed with benefits and a job. The alternative, to me, is much worse.
Right.
So
Well,
we will be, when we do the budget, we will exhaust every other option that we possibly can. And we already know some. We just need to talk about them from up here. That we will do everything we can to try to have those furloughs shortened. Okay, but we can't promise
Right.
until we do the budget, till we know what our state aid is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we care too. I've been asking a lot of your workers how they're doing and if they're okay, and some taking it good, some taking it bad, and it's okay. I mean, I'm not. If they take it bad, I'm not upset. I understand. I've been in that position before in my life. I know what it's like. So, you know, it's not a pleasant feeling. So.
It's my understanding that there's a dog park under construction. Is there any, I mean, if it is there any way like that could be put off until maybe next year, or like the dredging projects or anything like that? Could that
there
be
are
put
a lot
off?
of things that are
Yeah.
discussed.
Okay.
I think I can tell you now that we will probably forego the grant for the dog park because it was a matching grant. It is something that I have discussed individually with a couple of the council members. It has not been discussed from the dais here, but we also do lose the grant if we don't use the grant.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I mean, we knew that was going to happen. Why address it now? There are many tough things. There are many cuts we're going to try to make when we do the budget. The budget will be scheduling meetings we'll be starting in mid-February. Is that correct, Ms. Schlegel?
Probably mid-February, the third week in February, possibly.
We'll be starting mid-February, correct, Ms. Schlegel?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I just wanted to say to Mr. Michelson that this is our last resort, and you know, I'm comfortable that this is everyone's angry right now, and I understand that, but I'm comfortable that we've made the best decision, and hopefully, upon reflection, everyone will see that at the end of the day, we're going to keep everyone employed with their health benefits for as long as possible, and that you're merely victims of the economic crisis. It's not the governing body's fault. It's not management's fault. It's not the dedicated workers of the union, of all the unions and of the township. We're just right now a victim of what's going on in the country right now.
Do you have any idea when we're going to get a copy of like the actual furlough plan, like an official, you know, plan that you know from the township that this is the plan that's being implemented?
Certainly, you'll have that by the end of the week.
Like civil service, they do a plan and they submit it to civil service, the actual document.
Yeah, well, obviously we're not civil service,
No,
but we'll put something together for you. Also, I want you to know, as a union leadership, you know that you can come into my office and at any time, and if you have some suggestions as such as the ones that you brought here, we're more than welcome to listen to them.
And I keep my ears open. I hope I hear some more good ones.
Yeah.
So do I.
Any other suggestions? There's going to be a lot of other tough choices, man. There's going to be a lot of other people not happy with the choices that have to be made during these tough economic times.
Is there any way it could be less like, I hate to say this, but, supervisory types are only looking at like 4 weeks and we're at 12. Is there any way to be a little more
that's
equitable?
That may be discussed, but I don't know if that will be done at all. It's really not our decision, but I'm not passing the buck.
Right.
But you also have to do what keeps an organization running, too, in the right direction.
Yeah.
There are going to be many things discussed during the budget.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not happy about it, but, you know, when I pick up the Post on Friday and 23,000 people being laid off in New York, last night I watched Nassau County, 1,000 people to be let go, or 7% pay cuts across the board. You know, I see what's going on all around, and
Is like the
Hal's not alone.
Right.
Hal's not alone.
Is the
I think
income-
where Hal's alone so far is we said, let's come up with a plan that keeps everybody gainfully employed.
like in Howell right now, like the tax collection, is that down now? Or is that like people not being able to pay their taxes? Is that down from like last year?
No.
No?
Our CFO's not here, but I'd already spoken to him about it. Mortgage companies pay your real estate taxes because it becomes a first lien and your mortgage goes into second position.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like it used to be where 30-40% of the people 30 years ago owned their homes free and clear and paid their taxes
By hand,
themselves.
right.
That's not the way it works
The
anymore.
escrow account pays,
So,
so you have
it's not
most
that,
of-
but we have less interest income, higher insurance costs. We have contractual salary increases, okay? There are things that we can't get away from. And everybody is pitching in here. There'll be a lot of out-of-the-box ideas, like this was. This was not the way it's normally done.
Right.
I know me personally, if I was a worker, I'd rather have 8 weeks or 12 weeks off than lose my job and lose my benefits. That's just me. I'm not saying somebody else is wrong because they say, I would rather the person next to me be fired. That's their own personal opinion. It's not mine.
Yeah, I don't think any of our members want anybody to be laid off, that's for sure.
A lot of things will be worked on. We will have many discussions during the budget hearings, and we will do everything we can to squeeze every nickel we can to make the furloughs lesser. But no promises. The manager's doing the best job she possibly can with a difficult situation.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I thank you very much for your time, and I know that you'll do everything possible to make this as painless as, or as less painless as possible. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you, Manager, and everybody else.
Mr. Michaels, God bless you and all your workers and
Thank
their
you.
families too,
Appreciate
okay,
it.
sir?
Thank you.
Mayor, before you move on, you had just made a comment about with the dog park that Mr. Michelson mentioned. Before we just decide to forego it, if we've already encumbered the funds, or if that's in the process, and we can still get the matching funds from the county, is there a requirement that we go to an outside agency to perform this, or could we use the county's matching funds to have our own employees build this? Instead of having some subcontractor have work for his people, why don't we use the county's money to keep our own people working?
It's a matching grant, so we still would have to put up half the money.
Right.
If I'm correct, we would still have to put up half the money, or
Well,
it's use it or lose it.
Well,
That's
I
your bid.
remember about a year and a half ago, the former rec director came here and told us about this. And did we acquire the funds from our end at that time?
No, we did not.
Okay. All right, so we didn't bond for that, and the money's not coming out of the bond?
No,
Weren't
it
we-
is not.
Okay.
So it's
And
a
we
hun-
did not bond for the money yet.
And how much is that?
I think it was 160 something, 160 some thousand, and then the matching grant was 150. But we did not go out for the money.
But just to keep it in perspective also, if the dog park was done and it was already bonded for, how long would the bond be for, Lou? Would it be for 20 years or 10 years, sir?
That would actually depend on what is in total for the bond ordinance. Say if there was 6, 7, 8 items that were held in the bond ordinance, what the bond council does is they take an average useful life of all of the items that are under the bond ordinance. So if the average useful life was for, say, 12 years, then you're bonding for that 12 years. So it's not a The length that you pay for a bond is driven by the useful life of the components of the bond ordinance.
Which would be up to 20 years.
So if it was 12 years as a number, and we bonded for the 160,000, it would cost the township about 17,000 a year. It's not like we saved the whole 160,000 on day one, okay? And I'm not saying 17,000 in this instance isn't a lot of money. It definitely counts in what we're talking about now, people not working, okay? But I don't want nobody to say, well, that would have kept 3 jobs or 4 jobs, or that would have eliminated 1 week from the furloughs, okay? It's a good thought. It's say $16,000, $17,000. It's something the council will debate during the budget hearings. I'd love to have as many. Give me 100 good thoughts that save us $15,000 at a clip. I'd be very happy also. So thank you very much. John Zicka?
My comments were covered by Chris and will be covered by Sue Reich.
Okay. Evan Keats?
He had he's working tonight.
God bless him. Hope he's safe out there. Peggy Walling?
Hi.
Hello, ma'am. State your name and address for the record,
Peggy
please.
Walling, 6 Redwood Road, Winston Park. I've come to talk about the opening of the road, Redwood Road and Glen Road. It was closed for safety reasons. The safety of the people in Winston Park, the ones that are unsafe are the people who live there. People know that there's been speeding and everything going on. And when I leave my development, I have to go to Stanley Boulevard. There's no other way for me to get out of my development. I live on Redwood Road. I live on Carroll Lane and Redwood Road. I used to be able to go up the street, go to Sovereign Bank, no more. I have to get in my car, go down Carroll, go up Stanley to go south. I don't understand why all those roads had to be closed. They said safety reasons. In Candlewood, does people cut through Candlewood every day? Windmill Club, I cut through there all the time when I go to the stores over on by Kohl's. Why was Winston Park the one that was knocked off? And I don't understand it. Our development looks terrible anymore. We have these big yellow poles right in the beginning of our development. It looks like trash. And I want to know when we could get them opened or what we could do to get them opened. Has it been approved by the DOT yet? Final approval.
I will get an update from Sergeant Markulik of our Traffic Safety Division on this.
You know, I would like to, I'm not going to address that right now, ma'am, just so you know. But what I would like to address is that we have spoken in the past about doing a meeting a quarter in different parts of Howell Township. We spoke about that last year, correct, Deputy Mayor?
We had,
Councilman Howell?
actually did that a couple years.
I would like for us to go forward with that. I would like our first meeting to possibly be at Aldridge School. And then we would have the residents from that area that would like to come speak before the governing body, come speak. You know, it's, I was on the council when the road was closed. Okay, and there were a lot of people that were very happy about the road being closed, but I also do remember this. I remember it being said by the governing body that we will have a meeting a year and a half from now, and we will discuss, we will have the residents come again and see whether or not they still wanted it shut down or whether they wanted it shut down at Aldridge Road, because some of the residents wanted it shut down at Aldridge Road, at all 3 roads, instead of in the middle of the development.
Right.
Okay? So that would be my suggestion. I would like to, if it's the governing body's wishes, I would like us to do a meeting a quarter in different parts of town so that the residents of that part of town could feel free to come and speak about the issues that affect them. Would that be okay with everybody?
Right, now, I think when we discussed it last year, we were discussing having one meeting at Aldrich, one meeting at, like, Middle School South, one meeting at Memorial, and then one meeting at Southern, I believe, was what we decided to cover the four corners of the town.
I'm not sure about where. That doesn't make a difference to me. I would be fine with that, but I would like to see us start out, if it's okay with the governing body, that our first meeting be at Aldrich School. We'll advertise it.
We just want to check on, logistically, we have to check on making sure that our sound system, our recording system and everything, but we will work it out, and we'll talk about it. And we will try to schedule something for Aldrich School first, and let's see how that works out.
There are going to be a lot of people who don't want it opened because they have their own little havens, like on the beginning of Redwood Road. They park anywhere they want. It doesn't matter. I've seen the fire people who live in our development in municipal cars go to McDonald's, pull out of McDonald's, go down Redwood Road and go right over the poles. I don't understand it. If it was an emergency, believe me, that would be the best thing to do. But to go from McDonald's in a car that, if I'm not mistaken, if it's municipal plates, we pay for the gas for that?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who is going to McDonald's in a taxpayer's car that we're paying for to go over the piles.
Ma'am, okay. I would like to discuss this at another time or call the manager offline. I mean, I don't know if this is the place to be saying that public employees are breaking laws. I mean, none of us have no proof of it, and here we are talking about people breaking laws. Would you call the manager, please, and discuss
I've
that
written
with him?
to
Yes, you have.
and I haven't gotten a response.
That is true.
I have written to the former mayor. No response. So I had no choice but to come to a meeting tonight.
I'm fine with that, okay? I appreciate you coming, and no, I did not write you back. That is true, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying that is
I
true.
know. I know.
Okay? So, we will have a meeting, we'll do the best we can, have a meeting at Aldrich School. We will advertise it so that all the people from that area, anybody would like to come and voice their concerns or things they would like to see happen in that part of town, they'd be more than welcome to come, and we'll have an open public discussion about it, and we'll take it from there, and then the governing body will discuss it, okay?
Okay. And so you don't want to discuss anything about Redwood Road? The sign being off, MapQuest, you can't even get into the development. We're going to discuss that at a meeting that's going to be
No,
set
you
up.
can actually tell me that right now.
The sign on Redwood and Carroll, it's gone.
Street sign?
Street sign.
Okay.
It takes almost 2 minutes to get out of Stanley Boulevard every morning. 2 minutes I sit at that light. To get across the road, it's 30 seconds. And if you have people coming the opposite way and you're trying to get north on Route 9, if you don't get out there and gas it up, you're stuck for another 2 minutes at the light. There's a house on Redwood Road that I don't know if the people moved out. I have written about this too. There's trash and everything in front of the house. I think I wrote about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's still there.
Do you have the address?
9.
Okay.
I think the people moved out because they're not there anymore.
Just for your information, I don't know if you have a computer, but we have something called Q Alert on our website.
I've done it.
And you didn't get a response?
No.
You will get a response.
Okay. And what is the ordinance about unregistered cars or a landscaping company? They have their trailer parked there without the truck that goes along with it. So, of course, the roads are narrow Are they supposed to be parked there?
I don't think there's anything. I don't believe we have anything
I
that
think the
addresses
previous
that.
council did have discussions about an ordinance about
Long
non-motorized vehicles being
discussions.
parked on the roads. It's against the law.
Long discussions. Absolutely.
But
I
no one
don't
knows
know
where
what the
Winston
final
Park
outcome
is
was.
anymore, so no one comes in there. I had a cable guy, and no lie, a cable guy came to my house the other day to fix our cable, and he said, you know, this used to be such a cute little development. What happened? That's it.
God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you very
Still
much.
is.
You're welcome. Thank you.
God bless you. You look into that, Ms. Schlegel?
Yes, Mayor.
Susan Resch. Hello. State your name and address, please, for the record.
Susan Resch, Transport Workers Union.
Address.
Been assigned to 1700 Broadway, New York, New York, so have pity on me for getting here a little late, but I know I didn't miss anything because it was not the public starting. And I'm also the international rep that's assigned to assist Local 225 Branch 4. We all are going through economic hard times all throughout the
Excuse me,
country.
could you just pull the mic closer?
Oh, sorry. Either one?
Whichever one's got a red light there.
Doesn't want to come. Okay, we all are going through economic hard times all through the country, and we all have some hope that some kind of stimulus will come down and reach the state and be sent to municipalities without any strings attached, and we're all fighting for that. And I admire you, Deputy Mayor Dalton, because you asked a question on 8A2, the salary ordinance. You had asked, you know, was this affecting anybody? And I believe the answer was it's only a range, does not mean that they are raising anyone's salary. But I think the public employees that are here and in our meetings that we had last night, they want to know, isn't it true that certain non-bargaining unit represented workers in the town, officers and workers, isn't this ordinance because they received a raise this year in 2009? So I think that needs a little bit more explanation, or if you can provide an answer to that, we would appreciate it. And I don't know if
Mayor,
you-
I think they're referring to me, and I waive my rights notice, and you can certainly answer that question.
Okay. We had a grant writer in this town for many years, and we decided to have Ms. Schlegel at night be a grant writer, and she offered to do it for $10,000. And then she will not be taking pay for doing the grant writing for Howell Township at night. Plus, Ms. Schlegel also has taken a 2-week furlough with the workers unpaid, as well as some other department heads, and I can't be specific right at the moment. So,
I believe we had Oprah'd the request, and we didn't hear, you know, we
Okay.
didn't receive it
plus,
yet.
Ms. Schlegel in her contract is also paying 1% of her salary towards medical benefits. So she's taking a 2-week furlough, 1% of her salary is going towards medical benefits, and she's doing the grant writing for the township at night for nothing.
Have any other non-bargaining unit members received an increase this year in 2009? You don't have to name them, we just,
I really can't talk about
Okay.
contracts.
okay. Well, it's not a contract.
Well,
Okay.
Personnel matters.
You know what,
Okay.
you probably know the answers. It's
It's only speculation, but we would like, you know, well, I guess we'll get that
Was any
through
of
the
this
records.
information, did you request it by way
It
of
wa-
Oprah?
It was Oprah'd, I believe.
Right, when
so.
did you send that request?
I'd have to ask.
Do you know if it was in the 7 days? We have 7 days to respond, I think, to the request,
Probably is
correct?
within the 7 days.
I don't know.
The other thing is, you had talked, you're going to be formulating your budget for the current year, and Chris Michelson alluded to, when we had talked to you in the last budget formation, we had kind of said a 0% tax increases just exasperates the problem, because you have to make plans to get funds. And when you leave it at a 0% increase, we will be losing people. I think we had said that last year that you would be $3 million in the hole, and I'm hearing different things with $2.8 million, then I read it's 3.1. that we are looking at a deficit in Howell Township. And I know you probably don't have the exact figures, but that's about right, isn't that? Is that what the deficit is?
I would say no. I would say no, okay?
Is it higher or lower?
You can get those figures
Yeah, I would
over
say,
as well.
I would say a little bit lower, especially after some of the things that we'll be cutting.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say lower.
So it's still in the process then, right?
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Mayor?
it's,
Okay.
yeah, the process has only begun. It's not even at the midpoint. The manager meets with the department heads in November, starts to formulate all the budgets of each department. The governing body hasn't even touched it yet. We have not had our hearings. We'll probably be scheduling 3 meetings, start in the middle of February, correct, Ms. Schlegel?
Yes, sir.
Okay? And you're welcome to come.
Yeah, we hope to formulate a committee with employees and maybe offer some assistance to the governing body where things may be able to maybe reach some savings for the township, cost savings. And I know some people had said that maybe, Howell Day, fireworks, these things all cost money, and we should all be looking at things all around the budget, eliminate some fluff, so to speak.
Just so you know, though, okay, again, some things are just rumors, okay? For a couple of years, my company, another company paid for the fireworks. Is that not correct, Ms. Schlegel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not a penny came. Now, other costs did come from the township because you have the fire departments out there, you have extra police out there, okay, but the actual fireworks themselves, a number of years were paid from corporations that sponsor them. But they're all great ideas. How about, I agree with you, if there's no sponsors, there'll be no fireworks. I mean, I
Well, it
agree
is
with
a
you.
cost with those other unrelated, the manpower costs that it takes to prepare for it, and the budgeting the time that the police have to service that, and everybody else, the public works have to put it together, and their staff that is there.
Just so we're clear, any committee that you're going to form that's going to offer some guidance in terms of personnel matters should be directed to the township manager.
Thank you. The furlough plan for 2009, that is in lieu of layoffs. Can that be put into the plan itself, the plan document that you're putting together?
Well, the only thing is, I will say, is that obviously it can't be a guarantee. There is no intent. The intent is to avoid layoffs. But just as no one could have predicted the depth of this economic crisis, I can't predict what will happen between now and the end of the year. I really don't know. But I would certainly, it can't be a guarantee.
But that's the intent of it,
absolutely,
not to have any...
Absolutely. And I want to drive that point, because that is the intent. That's why we went to the furlough plan, that we do not have an intent to lay off any workers.
Okay. In 2009, but I just hope that the committee and and I know, Helene, you will, look at the budget as we prepare it for next year to try to keep people working, the people that we have now, in the future.
We wouldn't think of going through this painstaking process if the intent was just to let them go next year. Okay?
Thank you.
Feel comfortable with that. But again, I mean, you've been at this a long time. You know what you're doing. You also know what a lot of municipalities, counties are facing. You know.
Right.
Okay? It's not pleasant. There's only X amount of dollars to fit in. And you have to figure out ways of what you're going to fit in there. You can't invent money no more and raise taxes 15%, which happened in the state of New Jersey many, many times in many municipalities for many, many years. Let's do this project, let's do that project, let's hire this person, let's hire that person, and wham, here you are, raising taxes 15%. Those days are over. Yes, we went through a 0% tax hike last year. I'm not ashamed of it, I'm proud of it. where 80% of the towns went for waivers to raise taxes. I'm not happy right now. I went to the Board of Ed Finance Committee meeting last night, that our Board of Ed's going for waivers again to have the people pay more taxes again for 2 years in a row. Okay? There's this much money. Help us figure out how to work with this much money, not stretch it.
I'm glad you brought that point out, because I don't think many residents know that the bulk of their tax bill goes to education. They don't realize that the municipality is getting very few funds. I think the ratio might be 70% goes to the Board of Ed.
72%. 72% of your tax bill goes to education. I believe a little over 13% goes to municipal taxes.
That's right.
And another 13% goes to county taxes, and I believe 3 to 4% goes to the fire taxes.
That's right. So I'm
Okay.
glad you brought that point out, because it's a good thing that every resident should know that. So, thank you very much.
God bless you. Good luck to you and all the workers that you represent. Anybody else from the public? Would anybody like to speak at all? No more takers? It's 9:15. If I get home this early, my wife will wonder what happened tonight and stuff. You know what, I think we should, well, let's close the public portion. I think we should discuss a couple more things up here so we can keep everybody a little longer. Yeah. Would you like to chat? Would you like to go out? Listen, everybody, God bless you. Everybody drive safe. It's a little snowy and icy out there. Motion from the floor.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that it, Mrs. Woolman?
Perfect.
God bless. Everybody drive safe.
Except you